Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro Friday said that President Obama is well aware of the destabilization plans being carried out by the ultra-right wing. Maduro also said he will be sending a letter to the U.S. president urging him to stop aggressions against the South American nation. He went on to criticize Obama for his recent meeting with Latin American presidents, to which he predicted the fall of the democratically elected government of Venezuela. He also stated that the recent efforts by the right wing have failed in their objectives to create chaos and animosity against his government, saying the people are now more united than ever.
Su gobierno en pleno está conspirando para derrocar el gobierno legítimo de Venezuela.
President Obama, all of your government is conspiring to overthrow the government of Venezuela. You know this, President Obama. I appeal to you and your conscience because you know that all the agencies of your government, including the CIA, FBI, DEA, and NSA, are carrying out a plan to generate violence in Venezuela in order to justify a coup.
A partir de una escalada de violencia, un golpe de Estado cruento en Venezuela.
The former director of Colombia's now defunct spy agency DAS turned herself in early Saturday morning at her country's embassy in Panama, where she spent years trying to get political asylum. Maria del Pilar Hurtado had been in Panama since November 2010 after fleeing Colombia to avoid a series of criminal charges related to her alleged role in snooping on the ongoing peace negotiations between the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia and the Colombian government. Authorities in Mexico reported that there are still 30 people in hospital due to the serious injuries they sustained after the gas blast that left 3 people dead. Mexico City's health minister Armando Ahued said 9 babies are still in serious condition, as well as 1 adult. Officials said the gas company responsible for the blast will be charged with manslaughter. The capital's mayor, Miguel Ángel Mancera, said that 9 toddlers found alive in the maternity hospital underwent DNA testing to determine who their parents are. The hospital was vastly destroyed by the gas explosion on Thursday. Tens of thousands marched in Madrid on Saturday in the biggest show of support yet for anti-austerity party Podemos, whose growing popularity and policies have drawn comparisons with Greece's new Syriza rulers. Many waved Greek and Republican flags and banners reading "The change is now." The Podemos party was formed just a year ago, but produced a major shock by winning 5 seats in elections for the European Parliament in May. It is currently topping opinion polls in the run-up to local, regional, and national elections this year. Spain is emerging from a 7-year economic slump as one of the Euro's fastest-growing economies. German Chancellor Angela Merkel has ruled out canceling more of Greece's debt, saying the country has already received billions of cuts from bankers and creditors. Merkel's intervention comes after the Greek finance minister Yanis Varoufakis refused to work with the troika of lenders to renegotiate the terms of the debt-ridden country's $280 billion bailout program. The troika is formed by the European Commission, European Central Bank, and the International Monetary Fund. Greece's left-wing Syriza party won last weekend's election with a pledge to have half the debt written off and has already begun to roll back the austerity measures the creditors had demanded of the previous government. Top officials arrived in Minsk on Saturday as fighting between Kiev government forces and eastern Ukrainian rebels raged in the east. This will mark the first round of negotiations since September, when a ceasefire was agreed. Despite the truce deal, fighting has continued in Ukraine's eastern regions. The confrontation intensified in the first few weeks of 2015, with dozens of civilians killed. More than 5,000 people have been killed in the Ukraine conflict, which erupted last April. A report by the United Nations says the continuous fighting and shelling in eastern Ukraine has affected the lives of 1.7 million children, many of whom have been forced to live underground or left with psychological trauma. An estimated 1,000 children are living in underground shelters in the city of Donetsk because of the ongoing fighting between Ukraine government forces and armed militias, according to the United Nations Children's Fund after a recent visit to 12 bomb shelters.
In the majority of cases, the children have been brought here from places that were shelled, so they have witnessed not only destruction and destroyed houses, not only weapons and fighting around them, but they could also have seen wounded and dead, both fighters and civilians.
Firefighters in the Russian capital of Moscow battled a large fire on Friday night in the library of the Institute of Scientific Information on Social Sciences. The fire broke out on the top floor of the three-story building shortly after 10 p.m., and emergency workers said they had localized the blaze a few minutes after midnight. Russian media outlets reported that the fire torched 21,500 square feet. However, no injuries were reported. The Russian Institute has more than 14 million items, including rare centuries-old publications and materials from the League of Nations and United Nations, and a large selection of books in Slavic languages. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry hosted the foreign ministers of Canada, John Baird, and Mexico, Jose Antonio Meade, for dinner at his home in Boston on Friday night. The three officials are taking part in a two-day meeting to, quote, review efforts to support greater North American competitiveness and advance leadership on energy and climate change. The U.S., Canada, and Mexico signed the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, which came into effect in January of 1994, creating the largest free trade region in the world through the accord. Top seed Serena Williams clinched her 19th Grand Slam title, beating her opponent Maria Sharapova in the final of the Australian Open on Saturday. It was Williams' sixth title at Melbourne Park, and it moved her into a tie with fellow American Helen Wills Moody in third on the all-time list in total number of Grand Slam titles.
You know, standing here with 19 championships is something I never thought would happen. You know, I went on the courts with just a ball and a racket and a hope, and that's all I had.
Facts that have marked the course of history. Productions designed in the English language and made for the English-speaking world. This is Documentary. Watch it on telesur.net/English. Telesur, wherever the news, you'll be there.